Welcome back, everyone. Dr. Bill Angel is with us today. We're talking a little bit about books that are, I don't even know if I want to use the word banned, because in most of the cases that we're talking about, they're still available in the school. They've been taken out of the instruction for some. But there was a great article, the Daily Standard did one back on December 12th. Leslie Gartrell did it. 8-month investigation into this thing. What did you think when you read it?
I was shocked.
Yeah.
I frankly was shocked. I took my breath away to think that they had a policy in place on how to deal with parental complaints about books that are being assigned. But in each of the instances that they've been faced with this, they've done it undercover. They've done it informally.
And we're talking about Parkway schools.
Parkway schools, with the principal and the basically superintendent, and in conjunction with the teacher involved, have basically made decisions to pull certain books from the syllabus.
Yeah, as you said, each school, to their credit, has a process in place, and I think the board looks at it, and there's a period of discussion from the public, and they mentioned, as you said, well, we did this informally, we pulled this book to expedite the process. Your thoughts on that?
Well, they wanted to just avoid any kind of publicity.
Yeah.
They didn't want to have any controversy. They just wanted to handle this under the cover, keep it under the radar, and keep it quiet. Well, after this 8-month investigation, it's no longer quiet. It's all out there. And the superintendent and the principal look pretty obtuse in this.
Yeah, and the teacher, obviously I would think would be upset. You've got the book in question, and you've read it too. Yeah.
I read it, yes. In fact, I not only read it, I gave it to 3 of my grandchildren. This
Did you really?
For Christmas.
Okay.
It's Ta-Nehisi Coates, Between the World and Me. It's a long letter to his son about his experiences growing up black in white America. And he basically ruminates and reflects on that experience so his son can be prepared to enter the world in a way he was not able to.
Yeah, and we should preface this by saying it's not like it's rampant. They went back, this investigation went back to 2013, and there was a handful of books, but one of the things that really bothered me was someone had complained about a book, had no students in the class at all, brought that forward, and that process was in a sense expedited to pull that book as well.
This was a local politician, basically there in Rockford, who basically has an agenda, and wanted this book pulled because it was too much social justice, too much liberalism for this community. Yep. And so it got pulled. It's a beautiful book. You could open this book at any passage and read paragraphs. It's just a beautifully written book. And
the notion that every book, the opposite is, if you were to take his philosophy, is that every book should have both sides to every single issue ever. And that's not how books are. You can read both sides, obviously.
You can react to it, you can reflect on it, you can make comments on it, you can criticize it, but the other side of this is what?
Right.
Lynching? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure what the other side of this is. But it happened this controversy arose, it's important to note, in 2020. Right after the George Floyd, the Black Lives Matter protests and all that. And so it was seen as something that, as sort of being anti-police. Yeah. And they didn't want that in their community. And
the one case we talked about, the book that you're holding in your hand, that one came up during Banned Books Week, ironically, right? You're like, oh my gosh, yeah.
He made the decision during Banned Books Week, and furthermore, the principal told the teacher, no discussion of Banned Books Week in Banned Books
don't
Week.
bring up that.
Don't bring up that topic.
Don't bring it. Now we should say, and I don't want to call it, I don't know how you would describe it, but they went through Mercer County schools and they checked them all out, basically, their policies. And most had a pretty similar policy in place where there's hearings and that kind of thing. And they looked into Salina and they asked all these administrators about them. Now they had a case that was completely different on how they handled it.
Yeah, it was a case involving a book called The True Biography of a Part-Time Indian, about a Native American who's caught between white and Native culture. And they ultimately looked, there's some pretty explicit sexual stuff in there.
Sure.
But you had the principal, the librarian, there were 2 parents. I mean, they handled it through a committee process and ultimately decided to keep the book on the syllabus.
Yeah. So,
I mean, that's a case where it worked, the process worked, and you have to trust the process.
Yeah, I'm glad you say that, because I brought up before, and I said, well, if I found out my child was, as part of the syllabus, was reading 50 Shades of Grey, I might be upset. But as you said, if you go through the process and they bring it before that board and they say, yeah, there's no reason to be doing that.
Because you can take certain quotations out of a book, and they sound awful by themselves, but you have to put them in the context of the book itself. Where is this book going? What is the point of it? Why are we reading this?
Yeah.
And that's something that oftentimes is ignored. Right now, like 25, 26 states that are facing this.
Right.
And some are pretty aggressive. In fact, some people, for my purposes, intellectual freedom is basic. But yet some of these groups call themselves liberty people. There's one called Moms for Liberty out in Wyoming. I mean, but they wanted, Moms for Liberty want to ban books.
It's a misnomer, yeah.
It's a complete oxymoron.
Yeah.
Oxymoron.
As you said, it is growing. It's a trend, so people need to look into it, but it's a little frightening, frankly.
It certainly is. Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much for telling us about it. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Good seeing you. Now, going medical news coming up next on Noon Edition.